Hello everyone, welcome to C++ Part 4. Today we're going to be going over for loops, operators, and more in C++. Now I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently this time around, because rather than just throwing a bunch of concepts at you, I'll be teaching you guys by doing a specific problem. So let's get right to it. So to get to the problem, the first thing you'll want to do is go to ProjectEuler.net. Now once you're here, you'll click the Register tab and create an account. And once you have an account, you'll click the Sign In tab. Then you'll just sign into your account, of course. Now once you're signed in, you should be at a page that looks like this. If you're not, just click on the Archives tab up here. And the problem we're going to be doing in this video is number 1. It's called multiples of 3 and 5, so you'll just click on that. By the way, before getting into the problem, thought I'd mention that ProjectEuler.net is a great resource for getting good at pretty much any programming language. They have hundreds of problems designed to help you become familiar with all sorts of languages. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Alright, so going back to the original problem here, here's what we got. If we list all the natural numbers below 10 that are multiples of 3 or 5, we get 3, 5, 6, and 9. Sum of these is 23. Now we want to find the sum of all the multiples of 3 or 5 below 1000. Now I do my C++ coding in REPL.it, as you've probably seen in previous tutorials, so that's what I'll be using in this video. So I have a file opened, so we're just going to start out our program to solve the problem with the usual stuff. So we have include IOStream. And of course we have to add using namespace std, end it off with a semicolon. I'm going to delete this stuff in here. So we have our main function, and so inside of the curly brackets of the function is where all the code is going to get executed. So my thought process for this problem was that I could have two different variables. Basically, the first variable is going to be the sum of all of the multiples, so it'll be equivalent to the final answer by the time the program is executed. And the other variable is going to be the number that we're going to test out to see if it's a multiple of 3 or 5. So basically we're going to set the first variable, the sum, equal to 0 at first. Keep in mind that the variables are both integers because they're whole numbers. So we're setting the sum, we're calling it sum and setting it equal to 0. And then this other one, we'll just call it x, it'll be the number we're testing. We'll set it equal to 1 at first because we're testing all the numbers 1 through 999. So now here's where the concept of for loops comes into play. So how a for loop works is that you type in the word for, easy enough, and then you put 3 statements in parentheses. And then there's going to be a block of code that's going to be executed inside of curly brackets, similar to a function. Now, the 3 statements that go in parentheses, basically the first one is going to be executed once at the very beginning of the loop. The second one is going to be it's going to be a condition that needs to be met for the block of code inside the curly brackets to continue to be executed. And the last statement is what the program's going to do after each time the block of code is executed. So with this specific problem, our first statement is just going to be that x is equal to 1, because that's the first number we're testing. Now our next statement is going to be x is less than 1000, because we're only testing numbers for x less than 1000. And our last statement is going to be x equals x plus 1. Now this here is called an assignment operator. Basically it assigns a new value to x, in this case x plus 1, each time the block of code inside the curly brackets is executed. Just a quick lesson on operators. In C++ there are a lot of different operators that you can use. Operators are just things that perform operations on variables. So like what you saw here was an assignment operator. Another big group of operators in C++ is arithmetic operators. Just like it sounds, it's just operators that do math. So like multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, etc. There are also comparison operators in C++, which just compare things, of course. So like greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to. And the last main group of operators in C++ is called logical operators. Now I could just spend this whole video going over each individual operator you can use, but that would take an extremely long amount of time. So what I'll do instead is link a webpage down below in the description to w3schools.com, which goes over a lot of the most common operators in C++ and how to use them. So inside the for loop, what we're going to do is actually pretty simple. Basically, if x is a multiple of 3 or 5, we're just going to add x to the sum. So to do this, we're going to use an if statement. Basically with an if statement, you type in the word if, then in parentheses, a condition that needs to be met for a block of code inside curly brackets to be executed. So in this case, the condition is that x is a multiple of 3 or 5. So let's start out with x as a multiple of 3. Basically, this means that when you do x divided by 3, the remainder is going to be 0. So to find remainder, C++ has something called a modulus operator, which is denoted by the percentage sign. So basically, if x mod 3 is equal to 0, and now we want that, or x mod 5 is equal to 0, or it's denoted by two vertical lines like this in C++. So then x mod 5 equals 0. And all we're going to do inside this if statement is another assignment operator. Basically, we're going to start with sum and then end with sum plus x. So to do that, we just do sum equals sum plus x. Now we're actually almost done, because after all the code inside of here is going to be executed, the sum will be equivalent to the final answer if everything went correctly, because this is going to loop through all values of x below 1000. However, we still need to print out the value of the sum in order to know what it is. So to do that, we're going to go outside of the for loop, and in C++ to print things out, we just type in cout, and then the two arrows, and in this case, sum, the variable we're printing out. Now if everything went correctly, when we run this program, it should give us the final answer. So let's try it out. I'm going to type in make, and then main, the name of the file, and dot slash the name of the file. Okay, so this gives a value of 233,168. So now if we go back to ProjectEuler.net and try it out, the answer should work. So yeah, that should give you the final answer. Now before you leave, please make sure to fill in the SurveyMonkey down below in the description. That'll help me a lot. But yeah, that pretty much wraps everything up for today's episode. So thank you so much if you've watched up to this point, and I will see you in the next episode.